Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about the city of Ballarat, which is a major regional center in Victoria. Now Ballarat is emerging as the knowledge city because of educational institutions like the Federation University and growing industries in data processing, research and development. So today's video is really a deep dive on Ballarat's market pressure and whether or not you should invest in Ballarat. Is there a potential for a second wave of growth in Ballarat? Let's find out. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jathu. I'm a buyer's agent for property investors and I buy properties all around the country using a data-driven approach. So if you want to work with me, go to my website propertyframeworkbuyersagency.com.au and book a session with me there. Now, with Ballarat, I mentioned that it could go through a second wave of growth. Now, why am I saying second wave? Now, if you look at the past 10 years, Ballarat recorded strong growth between about 2016 till about 21-22. And then from 22, there was a period of stagnation and even prices declining. So over the last 2 to 3 years, prices have been declining in Ballarat. So today's video, we want to see if this market is recovering and there's potential for a second wave of growth. The data I'm using here, it's coming from suburbtrends.com. So this is a paid resource and I have plotted charts using their raw data. So if you look at the inventory in Ballarat, right, inventory is still sitting at 6.7 months. So that's fairly high. So inventory on an SA3 level is at 6.7, and on a balanced market, you would see inventory around 3.5, 4 months of inventory, whereas Ballarat, we are seeing this sitting at 6.7. So fairly cool market, I would say. And if you look at the price change, 1 year price change, if you see this graph here, you can see that median prices were 545,000 a year ago, and now they're sitting at 515,000. So it's declining. So is the market still going to continue to decline, or is there a recovery coming here? Let's find out from the charts here. Now I'm looking at sales turnover, and if I look at certain suburbs in Ballarat, I'm already seeing increasing sales activity. The sales turnover has been increasing, which means that the demand in these areas is increasing. Suburbs like Delacombe, the Wenduri Miners Rest, Ballarat East, Ballarat North, the Sebastopol Redund regions. You can see here that sales volumes have already been up over the last year. And in certain suburbs, days on market have been reducing. Overall, I see days on market in most suburbs in Ballarat has been steady, but certain suburbs here, as shown by the chart here, Alfredton, Delacombe, Ballarat North, Sebastopol Redund again, the days on market have been slightly reducing. And let's look at the listings on an SA3 level. So that's the Ballarat entire region. We are seeing that the listings is dropping from about 1,100 about a year ago to about 900 now. So that's a 20% drop in the listing. So now let's combine all of this together. We have median prices that are dropping and inventory that's fairly high, but we are seeing things changing. We are seeing sales turnover increasing. We are seeing that listings slowly starting to come down, and we are seeing that days on market starting to drop in certain suburbs. So putting all of this together, what this means is that this is a cool market which is showing signs of recovery and potentially transitioning towards a warm market, maybe in 1 or 2 years. That's what the data is telling me here. Let's look at the long-term growth in Ballarat over the last 30 years. Here, we have 6 suburbs in Ballarat, and I can see that these 6 suburbs have done about 6 to 6.5% over the last 30 years per annum. And if you look at the past 10 years in Ballarat, they have done about 5.4% per annum on average. So Ballarat is not a market that has done too much over the past 10 years. It's slightly undervalued and therefore it has the potential to move up. Now, looking at the affordability, if affordability is an important metric. Now, when you have good economic conditions and strong affordability, then price growth will always occur. So looking at affordability in Ballarat, okay, how this is being measured here is it is the ratio of the median house price to the median income. So let's say the median house price is 600,000 and the median income is 60,000. That is 10 times the median income. So that takes 10 years of income to to pay off that loan. And so that's how this is being measured. So Alfred 10, for example, is around 6 years. So 6 years of income is required to pay off that entire mortgage. Okay, so you can see here Ballarat is around 6 to 8 years, and anything around that 7 years is considered to be fairly healthy. So affordability is still pretty good in the Ballarat region. So all these suburbs here, I think affordability is still quite good. Now, the only downside that I see here in the Ballarat region is that the yields tend to be a bit lower. Now, if you look at this, most suburbs have a yield just around that 4%. We only have 1 or 2 suburbs which are just above 4%. So if you're looking at 5-6% yields and want better cash flow, then the yields which are lower in Ballarat might not be a great thing for you, and this might not be a market that you want to get into. Now, let's look at the overall macro level conditions in the Ballarat region. Let's start off with the GRP. We got a GRP of about 7.5 billion, which is fairly strong economy. The unemployment rate is sitting at 4.5%, so still very healthy. And if you look at internal migration trends, you can see that in Victoria, Ballarat has received the 3rd highest share of migration, internal migration. And during that COVID period, there was a lot of people migrating from Melbourne to regions like Ballarat, and Ballarat saw a significant increase in population during that time. But this trend is still continuing. We're still seeing people from capital cities like Melbourne moving to Ballarat and increasing that population there. This is a very good sign. When internal migration is positive, that means there will be pressure on the housing market there. Now, let's look at the industry diversification. Ballarat is very strong and diversified. We have healthcare and social assistance contributing 17.5% to the economy, construction contributing 10%, manufacturing at 9%, and education and training at 9%. So a fairly diversified economy as per this chart here. Now, let's look at the population forecast. Now, as I mentioned before, Ballarat is affordable and has excellent affordability to Melbourne. It just takes about 1 hour to travel from Ballarat to Melbourne with those fast trains, which means that you can live in Ballarat and work in Melbourne. And because of that, Ballarat's population has steadily been increasing, and the forecast looks pretty good as well. As of 2024, we are having a population close to 125,000, and this is projected to increase to over 150,000 by 2046. So that's a fairly good rise in the population over time. If you look at the building approvals trend, the amount of supply that's going to come into the market, we did see an increase in the building approvals between 2017 to till about 2020, and that was why prices were stagnating there for a while. But the positive news for investors is that the building approvals trend has been going down over the past 5 years, which means that there isn't a lot of supply that's coming onto the Ballarat market. Now, one of the most important things is the major infrastructure projects that are going to shape the region, and Ballarat has some big ticket items. The first one is the Melbourne Airport rail link, which means that Ballarat residents can travel directly to Melbourne Airport. So this is going to be completed maybe in the next 5 to 6 years, and it's a major 10 billion project. We have the Extrapolis 2.0 train manufacturing contract, which is a $986 million project. And this means that these trains are going to be designed and manufactured in Ballarat over the coming years, which will create a lot of job opportunities in that region. We have the Ballarat Hospital upgrade, which is a $655 million project. This is good for the region because it will attract more skilled workers. And finally, we also have major energy projects, especially wind farms, which are worth around 3 billion. So good, healthy infrastructure pipeline for Ballarat, which would further increase the population and create pressure in that property market over the years. Now, what can you buy in Ballarat? I'm just going to show one suburb in Ballarat, which is Sebastopol, which is where you can buy something for around that 450,000. You can buy brick homes like this for 450,000. Now, this home is a 3x2 on a 560 meter square of land. This property was sourced for 460,000 recently. And the cash flow analysis, let's look at this. The rental income, as I said, rents are pretty low. So rental income is about 20,800. A $460,000 property would probably rent for around 400 to 420 per week. So we have a rental income of 20,800, property management at 1664, insurance 1,200, council rate 2,400, land tax at 1,300 because that has to be factored in, water at 600. So overall, we are at a position where we are negatively geared by 13,664, which is slightly more negatively geared than your typical Queensland market, which would be anywhere between 8 to 10K. So this is something that you have to factor in. The yields are low. You have a land tax on top, so your property will be negatively geared, even though you're only buying it for 450,000. Now let's quickly compare Bendigo and Ballarat. Now, between these two markets, Bendigo is much more hotter. I'm seeing much more pressure in that Bendigo market. The yields tend to be better in Bendigo as well, closer to 4.5% or even higher. So why choose Ballarat over Bendigo? I think Bendigo has reached a point where it is really competitive to buy something in that 500 price point, especially good quality properties. Whereas in Ballarat, you still can do that without too much competition. So Ballarat is generally for people who don't want too much competition, who want to buy something good, a good quality property without competing too much, and that has the potential to transition into a warm or a hot market maybe in the next 1 to 2 years. So Ballarat is going to suit that type of investor. So guys, that's it from me for this video. That's a summary of Ballarat. I'm hoping to do more videos like this in the future. If you like this content or if you have comments around Ballarat, put it in the comments below and I will get back to you, and I'll see you in the next video.